All right, so welcome back into our live stream today. We are going to dive into our update on the top 20 altcoins via our sentiment and our crypto power index and dive in a little deeper. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. We'll get into it today, of course, around the crypto power index, just to kind of explain that and give you guys some insights of what that is. We've been building essentially a algorithm for about the last 8 years. And the concept was pretty simple, is really to measure the applications on social media around sentiment when it came to different sorts of brands, projects, and then you tie that in with APIs in from something like a CoinMarketCap, et cetera. You pull in and suck all that data in from the metrics of the tokens themselves, and then you measure those conversations. And this is one of those tools that has become very interesting, at least to me. And that is because we've been able to start to map this against actions in the actual market. And that means, and I talk about this quite a bit, is that emotions drive price action. Emotions, and it doesn't matter what kind of market you're in, if you're in stock markets, bonds, doesn't matter. Emotions will start to drive what happens when you start to spend. Don't worry about the fundamentals, don't worry about all these elements around Q performances, all those kind of things that will drive action and price action in the traditional stock markets. But in the crypto space, it's all about the aspect of the community, the project, and who is following it, and that's how it works. We measure that on a 1 to 100 scale point basis, and typically anything that is ranking in the top 70 point, not percentile, but in the 70 point range and above is usually performing fairly high. When we start to see 60s come in, that is when we start to see either down markets or something that's happened to a project. Now, what's interesting also about this group of coins that we're going to be releasing today on the top 20, and this is something because I've been studying this for years and trying to understand the dynamics of how these sentiment scores move and how they move, why they move, what is it, and how does that relate to price action, especially in crypto. One thing that's interesting is that there's quite a bit of movement in the altcoin space. Now, there's two really trains of thought on this right now. Bitcoin, a lot of people are looking at as currently, will it and is it at its bottom? And I'll show you a Bitcoin chart just to kind of compare, because this has a lot of relevance in why some of these projects are in the top 20 and the reason that we're starting to see such a shuffle around these projects. So if you are investing in these, just as a reminder, the concept behind this is you have to be ready, either one, to take profits, because some of these altcoins will go to 50% or 80% down when we see a bear market start to come. So you do have to be ready to move out of these and also be ready to take your profits and move along. I mean, that's just a traditional strategy that we coach and talk about here on our channel all the time. Before we dive into it, I just want to remind everybody this is a market mover because we are presenting sentiment data. That's part of our own proprietary system. It's what we do share with you for no fee. We give it to you guys on these channels, and of course you can dive into our Diamond Circle and get even more extensive, but it is not financial advice. The idea is to give you research, give you a little bit of tools, and give you some analysis to really understand where this next sector is going. I want to jump to Bitcoin real quick, and just in general, and we'll kind of go back a little bit here and look at the slide that we've seen over time and really kind of where Bitcoin has been. And a lot of people are asking me, and I'm getting texts constantly right now, is where has it been? So if you look back up here in November 10th, that was really kind of what we thought was going to be a potential climb into the 100K mark. That was when Bitcoin was trading at around right at 69,000. We started to see that adjustment. And of course, we are setting right here by January 1st, it had adjusted downward almost 34%. So the concept is when we overlay sentiment on top of this, the thing that we're looking at is the dips. We'll always measure off of these dips, and you see all these different little pull charts here. We're measuring at different points on dips. We're looking at different areas to see where and how and if Bitcoin is continuing to hold a sentiment. You'll notice that it was back here in the 70s back in November, and then it starts to drop a little bit into 73. We see a 63 for a first point. It was a 10-point move, mainly because of this massive sell-off, and that was, remember, if everybody remembers that date, December 4th, That was a massive sellout point, and then we saw that bounce occur, and then sentiment again continued to decline a little bit, and we're still seeing sentiment declining. So this is the concern that I have right now. And it's also a point that I've been talking about for some time, is that this 41.7 point was kind of our hold where we were a couple of weeks ago when Evan Aldo, which is our chart analyst, and I were really diving into that. A lot of people were really not pointing at the $41,000 mark. They were looking at potential market move up. We were still kind of in the essence of looking downward and not yet ready to say that this is the bottom. And 41.7 was really kind of our breakthrough point to where if it did crack it, we could see Bitcoin continue to fall below. It has hit below that, and the likelihood of what we will see in the next few maybe days is some pretty significant drops. We've got one that's isolated right here around January 15th that could take us in to the $37,000 mark. Now, why is all of this important around altcoins? The whole issue behind altcoins, and again, remember, altcoins have a lot of relevancy toward what's happening in Bitcoin. Now, what I'm doing is it's not necessarily all altcoin shopping season. I look at it this way, is there are some projects that I am looking at that are long-term. And one of the strategies that I use is dollar cost averaging. You'll hear us talk about DCAing all the time. And you do it both ways. You do it going down, you can do it going up. The concept is that you're wanting to start to move, and these are only applicable to projects that you are wanting to hold. And when I say hold, meaning maybe this is a 1 year, a 2 year, or maybe this is a long-term hold for you and it's a 5 or plus year hold out there, something like a Bitcoin or maybe an Ethereum. This is something that I want you to be aware of when you see our top 20 list, is that though there are some moves this month, because we'll do these about every 2 weeks, we'll pull this data. We may end up trying to do this weekly just to get more information out to you guys, because it's so volatile right now in terms of where the shifts are starting to occur. It also will give you a little bit of an indicator on where some of these projects are starting to go, meaning positive or flat. So let's get into that one. One, of course, I want to jump into is Avalanche. And I want to talk quickly about Avalanche, mainly because of what's happening right now with Avalanche. So Avalanche is one of the few tokens that has had a pretty significant rise here in a short period of time. Let me see here where that was from this bottom right here at 77 to where we saw this top right here at about 126. Right there was the 65% move in this market. This happened in early December, mid-December, December 13th through December 24th. Then we started to see a little bit of a correction and a dive. And as I said, one thing we'll do is measure sentiment when a token or a project is trending down. And the reason we do that is because all the moon boys are gone. All the retail investors are gone. The people that are in that project at this time that are talking about it are usually ones that are going to be sticking around. And that's when you can gather real data as it pertains to sentiment. And when you look at Avalanche, it still is going a little bit sideways. Let me kind of zoom up on this and get a little bit of a better, sometimes it's a little hard with the laptop here, but you can kind of see the movement here, a little sideways, a little up. We do see a little bit of a dip right here, which will happen, we think is going to happen this weekend, and then maybe a little sideways action before we see a little bit of a movement potential into an upward trend for Avalanche. Now, could it go? Mainly the reason I'm looking at this is really because of this whole area right here, and that is this 79 score and this 78 score on amplification. Those right now are pretty rare, even though we have a lot of projects that are ranking in that area. This is pretty rare for a token like Avalanche and others that have been able to do. The Polygon was doing the same thing 2 or 3 weeks ago, had the same kind of application. Then, of course, we saw the sentiment start to shift, and, of course, Polygon corrected. Again, all related to what's happening in Bitcoin. I want to get over to a couple of things here. I want to just show you guys the chart real quick, and we'll get into our top 10. All right, so this is the sentiment as of January 7th. Pulling this, and of course, Avalanche has pulled in at number 1, 80.22. They just clipped over it. Binance Coin, 79.31, has held on and continued to climb. Actually, Binance Coin popped up quite a bit on the chart. Terra Luna comes in at 79.16. Again, very solid. They were number 3 2 weeks ago in our last report. And then Cosmos came out of really nowhere. They were not in the top 20, but they were at like 26 or 27 and has moved up. Obviously, we've seen why they've moved up. Lots of price action. And of course, Atom being one of the only projects that has really been on the move during this little correction. When I say little correction, this may be a big correction. Polygon slid quite a bit. It was our #1 token 2 weeks ago. And of course, we've seen a price action. Again, we predicted a little bit of where Polygon was going to be going, is that we were concerned about that bag and whether or not maybe you should take profits. And that turned out to be the case. Hedera has really continued to hold on, and I've been impressed with HBAR and really kind of what this project represents and where it's going. Then you have Near Protocol, another one that I actually bought during the climb and then sold that bag and went completely out of Near Protocol, but it's still hanging on at 7809. Chainlink comes into the top 10, which was not in the top 10 a couple of weeks ago. And then Arweave comes in right underneath it, which was further up the chart. Arweave corrected quite a bit, and then Theta also further up the chart. All of these holding on very nicely. But anyway, the point is that this top 10, outside Avalanche, Binance, and Luna, and Polygon, have completely shuffled. You've seen a lot of variation on the projects, and we've seen that in the price charts themselves as well. We're going to continue to really try to drive more data to you guys in terms of this sentiment, because when we have markets that are like this, the opportunity to make money in these markets starts to narrow very quickly. It's not that set it and forget it kind of market where markets are going up, you kind of set it in there, you let it ride. These are short-term plays, sometimes swing trades. Maybe you're playing a short or a long. There's different kinds of strategies. You're jumping quite a bit into DeFi, looking for yield opportunities. You're dropping into stable coins, and you're looking for the perfect entry point on some of these projects that we're presenting to you guys today if you're thinking long-term hold. Like for me, an Avalanche is a long-term hold. A Binance is a long-term hold. The ecosystem is just too solid. And I'm really bullish on Terra and where Terra and Do Kwon are trying to go with Terra Luna and what that future might look like. Cosmos, I feel, just to be quite honest, I feel a little bit, I won't say bearish on Cosmos, but I think this will be a play that we may not see last very long on Cosmos. So if you are in a Cosmos bag right now, might be a good time to take profits, jump in and out. Polygon is one that if you have not been in Polygon, this may be one to put on your target list to acquire, because I think this was going to have a quick recovery when we see a recovery happen. Hedera, this is a kind of a little bit of a wild card, in my opinion. We've seen moves, very positive moves on HBAR in the past, and we've also had their CEO on the show. I like what they're doing strategically, and their chain in general is trying to really recreate blockchain, but the whole point is their project is a little bit big. The question will be, how can they really translate to the metaverse, which I know they're trying? How can we see real NFT ingenuity being done in a lot of these projects? And that is the thing that really makes me bullish on things like Avalanche, which has been the scenario of them really embracing what's happening in metaverse, NFT, play to earn, etc. I think we'll continue to see these projects that are going there. We even, when you think about it, Tezos has also kind of moved in that space really heavily into NFTs. Again, another big one that we should be looking at. Let's go to the next 10. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. Phantom was in our top 10 last period. Phantom is still on my 3 tokens to hold in 2022, and I still do have a big bag of Phantom, and I'm probably going to hold on to that one. I may take some profits and try to adjust a little bit on that one. Helium has been one of those that has been up and down, but also just has a very unique proposition. If you think about blockchain and use case in terms of Wi-Fi connectivity and grid connectivity and miners that are essentially mining off of a Wi-Fi usage, the concept of Helium and what they're trying to do as a project, intriguing, very intriguing. So I think there is some potential there. Solana, this is the one that really surprised me. Solana out of the top 10 and has slid to token number 13. My concern here with Solana is, again, what we've been watching over the past few months, and that says and that is, and sorry about that, that's a 2022 up there on January, is that Solana is an issue with the scenario of these breaches. And that's something that we're really going to call them breaches. I'll just call them challenges in the sense of congestion, any kind of issues with where we see the network slow down. And I understand that that's still an issue with early stage projects. Polkadot, still one of those that I think is undervalued and also just has not seen the move. Elrond continued to slide 75.11. Tezos up quite a bit from out of the top 20 and into the top 20 at 75.08. Algorand, somewhat of a stalwart here. It's been holding on. Uniswap also jumping in. And then Harmony came into the top 20 for the first time at 74.06. And then wrapping up our top 20 is XRP, which snuck in at 72.85. So it starts to get very loose out and under the top 20, mainly because the market is putting a lot of pressure on projects that are not either one hitting the markets with new releases, new partnerships, or some kind of movement on their roadmap. That's where and why we start to see a lot of fall off in some of these projects like this during times like what we're looking at right now. So let's get into a little bit about, and I just want to visit back to, let me pull up that chart right there. And I think we looked at the Avalanche chart. As I said, that one, Bitcoin you've seen there and kind of where that's going. And again, Avalanche has got a couple of things that has been moving. And one, this is, obviously they broke into the top 10. Many people are looking at, yeah, I understand, don't go for these headlines. It's not the next Ethereum, but it's definitely one of those that could be in the top 2 or 3 transaction protocols for DeFi, and eventually rolling into the aspect of use case for play to earn and also gaming NFTs. And that is where it gets really interesting to me, because that's where projects, as we start to see those kind of projects, and that's things like Polygon, and I know Solana, all those kinds of projects are the ones that are going to stay in the game. Now, will all of these top 20s be around during the bear market? Some of these may not. I mean, when I say be around, where we don't see an 80% drop in the value of this project. This will have a short window, altcoins, when we start to see either a recovery for Bitcoin, or we see that adjustment of where Bitcoin hits its high, and then we see the altcoin roll over, and that's kind of been the cycle that has been the adjustment that we've seen since 2017. I think this might change a little bit on this cycle. I think altcoins in general will have a little bit of relationship to where Bitcoin is in terms of overall market, but we'll have these flyers that are going to fly out of these scenarios in these dips, like Atom and like 2 weeks ago Near Protocol, and many of those that are kind of going against the grain. So that's what we hope to help you identify here with these top 20 rankings. I want to make sure and get your ideas of what you think we should be looking at in terms of analysis. Sometimes we don't index every single coin, or we'll list things out of the list if they don't have a big enough market cap. For this particular list right here, these are high cap, market cap altcoins. So just be on the lookout for that. But I want to get your input on projects and altcoins that you're watching. Make sure and drop it in the sidebar below. Just as a reminder on you guys signing up for the Diamond Circle, because this is where we will give you the information on some of the projects. So you can just go to paulbaronnetwork.com. You'll get a chance to sign into the Diamond Circle right here, and you can join pretty easily. Many of you have said that, I shouldn't say many, I've had a few people that are telling me that they haven't been able to submit. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I am seeing a lot of new signups. We are seeing a ton of adoption here. So I think the key here is once you've got your email, you just go up here to the top and hit login. And it's pretty simple. I mean, the PBN is mine. I'll jump in here real quick. And there it is right there. Okay, so once you're in and it's giving you back your password, so it'll send you a password real quick, and then that's where you're going to enter the Diamond Circle, and this is where you're going to get into new data. And these are the kind of things like what we're doing right now. We just dropped a Hedera price prediction. This will give you research, and it will go into price analytics and really give you a chart that typically we don't present here on the show. So you get access to this research a little bit deeper. Additionally, you'll be able to get to a lot of these more deep dive projects. So you might want to look at maybe the sandbox analysis. This is a full-on sentiment analysis, and it also goes into overall charts, etc. I mean, there's a bunch here that you guys can kind of get into. All of this is free, but the best thing is that once you're in, you'll also be able to get in on our monthly giveaways, because we do a ton of giveaways each month, and we're going to be doing one here at 300,000 on our subs, so be on the lookout for that live stream because it's going to be coming soon, and we'll be doing another big giveaway there. And the way we do that is we pull all our Diamond Circle members, and then we do a random selection right there. Let's get to the questions, because I know you guys will probably have a lot about which coins and which tokens, what's moving, maybe where Bitcoin is going, all that kind of stuff. So let's take a look at the chat. Do you still have Axie around 250 by year's end? I still feel very bullish on Axie. Now remember, these we have not seen, and this is something that I think a lot of people don't understand just yet, we have not seen the cycle of play to earn in a bear market. Now my theory and reason for this is because play to earn has a certain attachment to the market as it relates to Bitcoin, only because of liquidity and because of price action. When we actually see a bear market occur, I think play to earn will have a couple of months of adjustment, and then I think play to earn will be a stabilized potential opportunity for wins. And what I mean by that is those 10x, 50x, 100x gains. Those I think will not slow down. Blockchain is not going to slow down, because think about this now. The amount of investment that's coming into the space today, right now, reminds me a lot like the dot-bomb era. There's so much. We are in 1994, 1995 time cycle. Lots of investment coming in. These people are not going to slow down investment, and they're definitely not going to slow down innovation. So I think we're going to continue to see innovation in play to earn, NFTs, and any of the layer 2s and even the layer 1s that are able to really play in a big way in terms of NFT and play to earn utilization for smart contracts. All those guys are going to win, and I think that's another reason why we see some of these altcoins continue to level up their efforts in going forward. So good one there. All right, super chat. Hey Paul, yep, you're from the Dominican. Thanks for the look at MetaGods. MGod, keep doing your work. I think we looked at them on a high risk portfolio once, and they may have made it into one of our I'll have to look at that one and see if they did. But we do look at a lot of high risk. I'm kind of curious whether or not you guys are really interested in us bringing back our high risk portfolios in this era, because maybe some of you are taking profits and thinking, hey, what do I do with these? Do I just park this in some stable coins? Or do I take a look at maybe shaving off a certain amount of that bag, your stack of profits, and going into some high risk plays with those kind of things? Just let me know if you're interested in doing that. We'll definitely consider getting back into that. All right, so Rue Davian, you're asking about Cardano. Cardano has fallen out of the top 20 a couple of times in a row and continues to be a struggle. I'm just not a big fan of Cardano after I saw Alonzo's launch. Prior to Alonzo, I was still very much in the Cardano camp, but it's just like any tech company, any kind of tech company, until they prove you that they can achieve their next level up, because that's really all these companies are. They're tech companies, and a tech company is only as good as its last release. Its last release is what everybody scores it on. Cardano needs a big win in a big way. Now, granted, Charles is doing some very amazing things in terms of trying to restructure capital for a lot of these emerging countries. I completely get that. But if you're an investor, listen, investors, they don't care about your struggles. They wait at the finish line and pick the winners. That's the end of the day. All right, Mike Neal, do you think it's a good time to buy or is it best to wait? This is a good one, because I think the scenario, Mike, right now depends on two things. One, did you make profits? And are you taking those profits? Have you been taking those profits toward year end? Maybe a lot of you did not take profits, and you're because of either tax loss harvesting, maybe you did, or not taking them so you avoid the capital gains for 2021 and you roll those over into 2022 to kind of see what happens. Depending on where you are in your position, because this, again, not financial advice, what I can tell you right now is certain projects I'm buying the dip. Certain projects I'm taking profits. So you really kind of have, everybody's going to be different just because of the numbers, but I'm not afraid of it going either way. Either way. All right, Matic or Crow to build a big position. Matic or Crow. You know, Crow is definitely on the upswing right now. The question is whether or not Crow and how Crypto.com continues to build out. Now, if Crypto.com can create an ecosystem over there, much like what Binance has done with BNB, just look at the growth of BNB, and you can pretty much look at Crow and kind of track against it. Between those two, I would put both those, I'd put both those tokens kind of in the same boat, not necessarily head for head, but I would definitely consider both of those. Now, Matic, ooh, that's a good one, because Matic to me is, again, one of my long-term holds. That's just one of those tokens that I feel has such a potential. It's a project that has so much potential. So I would split it. I'd just split it down the middle, go 50% Crow and 50% Matic. That's what I would do for me. All right, wondering if Meta makes an announcement, would the market turn up again? Thanks, appreciate that from Adam Z. If Meta made an announcement after, remember, Facebook pulled out of CES, then they restructured all those developers that were working on AR and VR, meaning less of that, meaning they're probably going to be in more XR reality versus virtual reality, and UX, meaning UX. So you might see it in visual aspects, not in some device aspect. If that is the case with Facebook or Meta, and maybe they've got something up their sleeve, it's very possible. You'll usually hear this right before quarterly earnings, so I would look at something towards the end of first to end of March. Might be something on the look there. Stephen Dupp, what about Gala? Gala, is it dead? Gala, of course, again, in the fall, great project, lead up to Galaverse, big ones. They have to start delivering games. I think Gala right now is not necessarily a top buy, even though it still scores very high, just because they've got a lot of people that are really loving on what Gala means. But if I was buying today in the metaverse, that would not be one of the coins I would buy. All right, I'm long on Sand. Yes, are you staking your coins? I gotta stake my Sandbox coins, and sometimes I just don't have the time to do it. But we do and have done a video on Sandbox staking, so check back on that video. You'll love it. But there are some good ones. I do want to stake it. It's just a matter of time. I have not had the time. I will do that. Staking Sand, just like Axie. Axie is another one. You have to jump through a few hoops to just get it done, but it's a good one. All right, Bobby, okay, so interesting. Watch the video on Zilliqa. Would you compare it to Blocktopia? I don't know if I would compare that to Blocktopia. I mean, sure, graphics kind of have that element. The metaverse in which what they're trying to create has that element. They're going after marketing deals. There are some elements that are just similar, but I think all metaverses that are being developed right now, remember, this is an era in which, much like early internet days, there's a lot of projects that are being, who's going to be the next Google? Because I kind of look at this being the next Google, meaning the metaverse, because the capacity for these environments are going to be real, and what we could see in these environments in terms of search, e-commerce, brand awareness, utilization, functionality, DeFi, all these kind of things that can apply to what is now we know as Web 2.0 could really roll out. I am a big fan of all these metaverses. I just want to see who's going to win at the end. If Zilliqa rolls out with the first active metaverse in 2022, to me that was a gangster move, because everybody else has been talking about it but hasn't done it. And that's the thing that only puts, the reason we pulled Zilliqa on the channel was because of their development. Now, if they actually do what they said they were going to do, and they launch something this month, that will be very interesting. Very interesting. Coming in from Auto Group, SEC freeing XRP is what we need for a market to go back. I don't think so. I don't think the market is holding on Ripple's. Is Ripple's legislation going to have an impact? Sure. But remember that crypto is global. Half of our audience is international. and the idea of where crypto is going from a long term. Remember why we're in this game. We're not in this game. And if you look at the performance of the US dollar as the monetary system and the performance of that against inflation over the last 50 years, you can just look at that chart compared to the Bitcoin chart. I think you would rest your case. You're in this for the long term. You probably hear very early. You're early adopters. And the idea is can you live through this? Do you take your profits and then hold through a potential bear market if that is what we are seeing? I'm not there yet on a bear market. And I still believe that we are going to see a lot of action in a bear market in some of these other verticals, such as DeFi and such as Play to Earn and NFTs. Remember, that wasn't around in 2017. Both those markets, really, DeFi was not completely mature, and Play to Earn and NFTs definitely were not there. Completely different framework of what crypto will be in this next bear market. So be on the lookout. All right, what happened to UFO? UFO absolutely is one of those, again, one of these projects that will see ups and downs. UFO has been in the chart, out of the chart, in good sentiment, out of good sentiment. It's kind of like Vulcan. Vulcan Forge is another one, PYR. Another one that kind of just jumps in and out. I know we're getting into some of the gaming projects, and we have shows that do nothing but really break down on these. I will say this, that sentiment and amplification are even more volatile in the gaming and Play to Earn projects. Those you have to be very, very cautious on. And I cannot express that enough. These are short-term holds unless you find a game that you're very interested on and you become passionate about, like maybe an Axie, or if you get into some of these little up-and-coming games that still need release, but they're actually usable. Those kind of things are the ones I'm always looking for. What is the number one buy in this dip? Let's go back here and take a look at the top 20 just to answer that question real quick. Number one buy, I still believe it still has to be Avalanche, and that just because it is the number one in terms of sentiment. We just got an interview with John Wu, the CEO of Ava Labs. Watch that interview. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's some things coming down the pipe for Avalanche, I think, that are going to be very interesting, that are crossing over both in the DeFi space and also in the Play to Earn space. And that's the magic of what Ava Labs and Avalanche bring to Layer 1. That is that kind of conversion. The other aspect is the onboarding of big developer herds, which you need to be able to grow to the next level, especially when we see mass adoption. Because when we see mass adoption, we will not have enough developers. We just won't, because there's going to be 50 Deloitte and Touches trying to do something in terms of blockchain development, and you're not going to have the team there to be able to scale something out there. So watch the teams that are doing those kind of enterprise plays, Avalanche. Those teams that are trying to put something into the metaverse, NFTs, Avalanche. Also things like Tezos. Those are the ones I'm watching very closely right now. Thanks for the super chat on that. Thoughts on LP staking during bearish markets? Logic is that you can buy underlying tokens cheaply and then trading picks back up. I think that's a good one because you do get the potential in any kind of DeFi activity, and I think a lot of people have looked at DeFi in the early stages. If you look back pre-May of last year, when Bitcoin was really on its rise prior to all-time high, all those kind of things, markets were very low, ETH was under $2,000. All those kinds of plays were being done in the DeFi space, and you saw crazy, gains and things like that on Aave, Curve, etc. You'll see that cycle come back, and you'll continue to see those kind of plays moving back in. And I do think but now you're adding in this crazy yield farm, but through traditional exchanges, where you used to go over here. Now, granted, you had hundreds of percents of yield gains in some of these plays, but they were very risky. Where now you can just go into something like a Celsius or a Voyager or a BlockFi, almost anywhere, and get a pretty significant gain on all your primary tokens and then also on USDC. So there's a lot of strategies that are being in play. We're probably going to do a video on a strategy in flat markets, how to move money around. We're also going to be doing a video series on protecting your crypto assets, because now you're getting ready to move into the next cycle. And whether it's high, and we see this going all the way to the end of the year, the point is legally, You need to be able to protect those assets. So be on the watch for that one right there. Make sure and subscribe if you are not. Hit the channel right now. Just subscribe. Hit that little bell. It's going to give you notifications when we're doing these live streams. But make sure and like this video. If you like what you saw, just hit the like button right now. Hit it right now. If you're on mobile, pop out of it, come back in, hit the like button, and be good. If you want to join the Diamond Circle, it's the link below. Pretty easy. Reach to me on Twitter. It's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.